Another artist from the postmodern dance period was Alwin Nikolai. And he was an American choreographer, composer, designer who really worked with abstract dance. He combined motion with various technical effects and had a complete freedom from technique and established craft and choreography as we knew it before him. Initially, he was a silent film accompanist and puppeteer, which I found out after I learned about his work. So I found it really interesting that that's what his origin was. And it made so much sense after seeing some of his choreography. Although Nikolai's choreography was sometimes criticized as being dehumanizing, he maintained instead that it was actually very liberating. He asserted that in depersonalizing his dances and his dancers, they were relieved of their own forms, and then they could be free to identify with whatever it was they were portraying. If it was a creature, they weren't attached to their own self in that experience. Nikolai also was noted for advancing the related concept of decentralization. So no point on space, no part of the dancer's body was more important than any other. He really advanced dance and technology, did profound things with lighting, with costuming. He was quite the pioneer. And even to this day, there are artists that are experimenting with dancing technology that weren't quite as creative as Alwin Nikolai was at that time.
Brick bags so that you don't see their faces. All you see are the shapes that they're making. And he often didn't even want to see the bodies beneath the bag. He was interested in really true abstraction. It's very much about line and shape and constantly shifting images that make suggestions but don't tell a story.
Paul Taylor, you actually know quite a bit at this point about because of the film that you watched in the last module, The Dance Maker. I mentioned him here just to put him inside the context of the postmodern period. He was definitely caught up in that era of dance. He originally performed in the companies of Merce Cunningham. So again, just giving you a little more context with which to place that film that you watched about the dancers in his company and about his work. He danced for Merce Cunningham and for Martha Graham, which you've learned about, and also George Balanchine, whom you learned about in our first ballet module. He was considered a very prolific and leading choreographer of the 20th century. He created over 150 major dance works. He made at least one work a year, a major work, which is just incredible. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk about him in this particular lecture was because there were many works that he made that were very much in line with the ideals of postmodernism. One that sticks in my mind, it's called Duet. He made it in 1957. He referenced it slightly in the Dance Maker film, but I don't know if you would have caught it. It was an experimental piece in which he and another woman performed. The curtain rises and he's standing and the woman is lying on the ground and neither one of them move. It's a 4-minute dance in which nothing else happens except for this scene of a man standing and a woman laying down. And then after 4 minutes, the curtain closes. It was incredibly minimal and it angered the audience. One of the things that I love about that performance was the following day, there was a review in the New York Times, and the review was completely blank with just the critic's name at the bottom, which was awesome and a perfect way to reflect on Paul Taylor's Duet, in which nothing happened. So very much a part of that postmodern period. Also, Judson Church from 1962 to 1964, the artists that created that collaborative were very avant-garde, they were experimentalists, they rejected all the confines of modern dance practice and theory. They believed in pedestrian movement, so things as simple as walking and sitting and running were dance, and very much in alignment with the idea that you didn't have to be a trained dancer your whole life. You didn't have to be professional, that anyone could be a performer, anyone could be a dancer. And so they welcomed that into this space, the Judson Church Theater. It was about everyday movement. There was no narrative. There was no choreographic craft. Dance for dance sake. And then Trisha Brown, she actually came out of Judson Church. She was one of the founders, and she was groundbreaking in her way of making dance. She just recently passed in 2017. She had the Trisha Brown Dance Company for almost 20 years. And she was a ceaseless experimenter, just her entire career, just experimenting with dance and discovering all the various ways that one can make work and various ways that people can move. She created over 100 dances. She created 6 operas. She was a graphic artist. She also was known for minimalism and accumulation. So it's intellectual in some regards. So you would make one move, and then you would repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and then you'd add in a second move. Then you'd go back to the first move, do the first move, the second move, repeat it, add a third move in. A little bit hypnotic, very different from the way that I create work and the way that very different from my aesthetic as an artist, but something that was quite groundbreaking at that time.